Good evening, everyone. It is 6:32, and this is the January 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Human Relations Commission. Our first item of business is the call to order and roll call. We have a couple folks who are still arriving, but maybe we can get that underway. Jerry, could you call the roll?
Sure. Felix?
Here.
Kevin?
Here.
Connors here. Ellie?
Here.
Amir?
Here.
Lainey?
Here.
Dima?
Here.
Megan?
Here.
I will note that Edgar is not going to be here tonight, and Kate is not here yet.
Okay. I just realized the microphone was not on, but we have a quorum. Thank you very much, Carrie. Next item of business is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any suggested changes to the agenda? If none, we need a motion to approve the agenda before we can get started.
I move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Lainey and a second by Ellie. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We are now on then to brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and liaisons. I would just like to begin by thanking Lainey, Felix, and Amir, and of course our wonderful staff, Carrie Dyer, for a really beautiful and inspiring event on Monday celebrating Martin Luther King Day. I think the civil rights community in Davis has a lot to be proud of, even if singing in public may not be one of those things. I have a couple other things I wanted to note. Just a reminder that the HRC is sponsoring a free film screening. This will be before our next meeting, so I just wanted to note it now. Wednesday, February 19th at the Veterans Memorial Theater. I believe the time, someone can correct me, but I don't have it here. But that will be commemorating or the film has to do with the period around the Japanese internment and that unfortunate history. A couple other just real brief announcements. I wanted to note something that others might have seen too, which is that the Police Accountability Commission, in partnership with the Social Services Commission, is hosting a free informational and outreach event on Wednesday, February 12th also at the Veterans Memorial Theater, 7 to 8:30. This event is entitled "Who You Gonna Call?" Regarding local community resources. And there will be important information shared there with presentations or resources from NAMI YOLO, Davis Community Meals and Housing, Davis Streets Team, and others, and a chance to get more information and have a kind of a public discussion. So I think that's an important item just to flag, because I know there are some tensions in the community around that issue. So that it concludes the announcements I just wanted to make at the outset. Others have announcements? Or Ellie?
Great, thank you. And I want to second the great job that the subcommittee did for the event on Monday. I thought it was fantastic. So I mentioned last time that I had gone to a really great anti-Palestinian racism webinar back in the fall, and the same group is doing another training this coming Sunday. It's 10 to 11:30 a.m. It is online, and if you are interested in that, you can register at www.antipalestinianracism.org.
Thank you, Ellie. Others, Amir?
Yeah, I thought I'd just update the commission. Last time that we met in November, I've shared with you the project that I've kind of initiated with the olive harvest. So I just wanted to let you know that in the time past, we were able to get a small grant, and we partnered with the UC Davis Olive Center, and we harvested. It was a pilot run. We were about 5 families. It was a great, it really was a great family kind of project. It was a full day of olive harvest. We harvested them down by the airport on the boulevard, the small airport on campus. And the next day we went, we crushed them, and we then had our olive oil celebration, and it was a fantastic event. So I'm looking forward to doing it. So we'll be doing some more work during the year. It looks like we may be taking some an orchard run by UC Davis and kind of maintain it throughout the year, so we get some more kind of buy-in, if you'd like. So I will probably bring it again. I think it would be awesome if we can get, in order to get a greater reach, get sponsorship from the city for that kind of a project, but I'll bring it again later in the year probably.
Great, well, thank you for that update. I was kind of wondering how that event went. I was out of town that day, and we haven't had a chance to connect, but thank you for the update and for all the work you did to make that happen. Appreciate it. Okay, other announcements? We did, Kiri, yes, thank you.
You may remember, but it was a couple of months ago, I had an initial meeting with a group that reached out to us called the Community Conflict Resolution Unit. They're with the California Civil Rights Department, and they work with communities and local and state and public bodies to constructively manage and resolve conflict or minimize or eliminate the potential for hate-motivated violence. Their services are all free, and we had talked about them coming to present to the commission to share more about what they do and opportunities for our community to be involved. So I wanted to just provide you with that update during our brief announcements, and then also suggest that we put it on a long-range calendar item, maybe for February or March if they're available. They are presenting to Hate Free Together next week.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you very much for following up. I do know some folks over there in that unit, and it's good to make that connection. So we'll look forward to further information, and I'll work with you on whether we can make that part of a future agenda. Okay. Any other announcements from folks? If not, we will move on then to public comment. This is item 4 on the agenda, public comment period for any item not listed on the agenda or listed on the consent calendar. There will be public comment taken on specific agenda items. This is for the consent calendar and items that are not listed on the agenda. So if there is anyone who would like to come forward and offer public comment, you're welcome.
Alan Hirsch, I want to note the moment and what's going on and what our role is here in the moment. Trump was elected, it was inaugurated on Tuesday and Monday. His project and his allies believe in an ethno-state. We only can get along. Our color of our skin is our fate, our religion is our fate. We can't live together as a community. We can't live in pluralistic societies are there. We have fear for one another. We should fear and struggle, have a zero-sum game on the thing. I think this is a challenge, and I think, Davis, we can be a witness that this is not the way the world works. We can all live together in this community safely and struggle with our differences in a safe and appropriate way. We may not drive out our dislikes, but we can drive out the fear and the danger and sense of danger we have here. That's what I think we should be working on. We should not deny that we have grave, deep differences, but we should be able to figure out how to talk about guardrails on that discussion. I point out religious differences. I think the fundamentalists and religious differences are the really, really fundamental. I mean, we have the Christian Zionists who are striving for the end days and the rapture, and will do anything, even start a war with Iran. I've seen that happen. We have the Muslims, the Hamas, and the Iranian Islamists who basically want to drive out the West as corruption. We have Jews and the Kahanists in the West Bank, Hilltop Youth, who basically want to make the larger thing. We need to deal with it. We need to drive that out. We can live together, and Davis needs to be a witness of that. We aren't going to solve the Middle East, but we will solve Davis. And this is how we think. And we need to call out people who run the victimhood Olympics too, because that drives them fears. Everyone claims things are bad and bad and bad. Things are a struggle, that fall short. But we have done amazing things. We should start celebrating those amazing things of progress. Si se puede, I suggest, should be the theme for the Chavez Day. We have made progress. We will make progress. We do not have to succumb to the negativity of Trump era, where we can't live together. So that's my hope, and that's why I think we should hold the Trump thing. It is a challenge to us, and we and Davis can be a witness for a better way. The play Hades Town ends with a toast to those who can remember that there is a better way, even despite of the return to the darkness. We can struggle to maintain that hope. So please, let's work on positivity wherever we can at this particular moment in time. That's what we need. Yes, we can. Si se puede.
Thank you, Alan. We shall overcome was one of the messages I took from Monday. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sawyer Vaught. I have a few papers I'd like to give you all.
Okay.
So, while I pass these out, I just want to introduce myself. I am a junior in high school at Da Vinci here in Davis, and I'm interested in serving on the Human Relations Commission as a DJUSD student representative. Here you can see a copy of my application and also a copy of
But thank you.
So I wanted to take the night to introduce myself, but also to bring to your attention a recent executive action. I'm president of the Gay Student Union at my school, and this has been a topic of a lot of discussion recently in our meetings. So on January 20th, Donald Trump published an executive order entitled Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism, and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. Now, this is a really misleading title because at its root, this order doesn't defend women. It persecutes transgender people, and it establishes a very strict binary of sex at the federal level. So it recognizes only male and female and classifies people based on their reproductive cells. And this is not only concerning, but biologically inaccurate for multiple reasons. I want to draw your attention to Section 3, or subsection F, which I've highlighted in blue, because this is most relevant to my role as a student, because it discusses identity-based access to single-sex spaces. So that's things like changing rooms and bathrooms. And it sets kind of concerning precedent for Title IX, other Title IX rights, because it challenges, it claims that the decision made in the Bostock v. Clayton County case, which said that you cannot discriminate against a person on the basis of their sexual or gender identity without discriminating against them on the basis of sex cannot be applied to transgender people and identity-based access to single-sex spaces. And this has caused a lot of fear in students in DJUSD. And so at a time like this, it's super important that we educate people and we make sure that we provide reassurances to our student body that we will protect them and we will work together to ensure that their rights are protected in California and in Davis, regardless of what is happening at a federal level. All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you for coming, Sawyer. And just to note, there is an item on the agenda regarding the Davis Civil Rights Ordinance later that we'll be discussing. Okay, others for public comment? Okay, seeing none, and then Care, we also have possibility for folks to offer public comment in writing by email. Have you received any?
That's correct, we did not receive any for tonight.
Okay, no written public comment, thank you. Okay, our next item of business then is the consent calendar. There's one item on the consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes of the last meeting. I don't know if folks have had a chance to review those. Those are attached to the written materials for the packet this evening. I would ask if there are any kind of changes or revisions, or if not, then look for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Just one moment, I apologize. I somehow have last year's agenda up on the big screen here. What you all have printed and in front of you is correct. It's just the one on the screen. I looked at it and I just need one moment so I can make sure to get the, I was perplexed as to why there was two, there we go. There we go. Now that matches what you have in your packet.
Thank you, Carrie.
Sorry about that.
There are a few places in here where I am both listed as doing an action and listed as being absent. And that is because I was absent for the first half of the meeting, and then I showed up for the second half because it conflicted with the school board meeting. And so I think I just need to be removed as absent at the point at which I start doing things as evident items.
Thanks, Lainey. I did try to catch all of those. I appreciate you finding the ones that I did not.
It's like D, 60, 70, I think is,
All right.
or 60 and 7, I think is
Thank
where
you.
they're at. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Any other revisions or additions to the minutes? If not, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes. Anyone willing to make that motion?
I will move to approve the minutes.
All right, thank you, Amir. Is there a second for approval of the minutes? Everyone's so bashful.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. There has been a motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I will abstain because I was not at half of the meeting.
Okay, abstention by Laney. That motion carries and the minutes of the last meeting are approved. We are now then at item 6 on the agenda. Carrie, are we good?
Yeah, we're just fine. I was just going to say that if you're not at the meeting, you don't have to abstain. You can still vote for them as a matter of record. But I did write you down as abstaining.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, we are now at item 6, the first item is A, public forum on recent hate incidents in the Davis community. As people may know, this is a standing item that we have had on the agenda for some period of time, where we provide an opportunity for folks to note concerns or issues that have arisen. When I say folks, I mean those in the community and as well as commissioners. And obviously always happy when this is a short item, if that means that we don't have additional recent hate incidents to discuss, but this is that opportunity, and we've provided it every month. So I would want to open it up both to the commissioners and to the public. If there's anyone who'd like to come forward to address us, or for commissioners who might have concerns or incidents that they want to share. Mr. Hirsch, please come forward.
Give you all a copy of this. This is the Project Esther. This is the National Strategy to Combat Anti-Semitism. That is out of the Heritage Foundation, which is the same folks that brought you
Alan Carey is reminding us
Foundation,
that you-
the Project 2025, so it's a credible organization. And it's basically, it's a Christian nationalist project that will use there's culturally appropriating anti-Semitism in its culture war against the left. If you've heard of HR 94, 95, which was going to take nonprofit status away from left-wing groups that they, with minimal status because they allege they're involved with terrorism or whatever, this is part of that project. And they basically, the project also calls out the problem with anti-Semitism. The Jewish community, the progressive liberal community has been complacent. So the Christian nationalists are going to step in and going to protect the Jewish community. And so that's part of that. And I also included some slides, which is a presentation that was done to the Jewish community by a gentleman who basically claims there are 20 radical anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist groups in Davis. He alleges they're using the Iranian playbook. And he makes some very strong accusations. Now, if those are true, we have Iranian-funded and supported groups in this community that should be called out. But if that's not true, I would say the accusation, including all the people and individuals that he called out, that is a hate incident. You can't accuse people of that. To call someone a racist when it's not true is a hate incident. I believe just as being a racist is. We need to be careful how we use these terms. Careful, because it drives fear and hate and divisiveness. And this is what this gentleman did, and he did it in a Jewish venue, and I don't know whether it's true. I do not think it is true. I hope it is not true that there is an Iranian-backed groups here, 20 Iranian-backed groups in Davis. That's what he said, including the Associates, the University Students of Davis, undergraduate, the Humanities Organization. You'll see the list of groups. I copied a slide off this presentation. But I think that needs to be on our radar, because I'm concerned that this gentleman would ally with the Christian nationalists, the Christian Zionists, and basically drive hate and drive fear into our community. And our community cares about this deeply. We are anti-Semitism because we walked when the Imam, we are anti-Muslim because we walked with that when they faced. We are very excitable. We need to be careful of these accusations, if they're true or not true. I don't believe they're true, but it should be on our radar. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, are there others who would like to offer public comment on this item? If not, let me just turn it back to the dais then and see if there's further discussion either on the public comment item, the public comment we've received, or other issues that folks would like to bring forward. Okay, seems like there's Not further discussion at this time. Appreciate the public comment. This is a standing item, as you know, and I think some of the concerns that have been lifted up are also longstanding. If there's nothing further, then I will suggest that we move on then to item 6B. This is the annual Tong Hai Win Awards. There is material in the meeting packet, and if I might, I would like to maybe request that Carrie, who has very helpfully prepared the material for us, might introduce this topic, and then we'll take public comment.
Thank you, Chair Baker. As you know, the Human Relations Commission, I'm being very formal now. The Human Relations Commission oversees the annual Tong Hai Win Awards. So in January, we take a moment to review the categories that we've had in previous years along with the timeline to see if that works for you or if there's any modifications that you want to make. In your packet, there's the staff report and then the proposed nomination rules and procedure, as well as the application. And so tonight I'm asking or recommending that you guys review the award categories and the process and the timeline to see if there's any alterations you want to make. And then secondly, create a subcommittee to review the nominations. As a reminder, the subcommittee would review the nominations and then bring it back to the full commission for discussion, and the full commission would make a recommendation to City Council for ratification on that. There is no cost associated with the individual awards, and then there is awards reception and a perpetual plaque that's in the hallway there, and those funds are already incorporated into the annual city manager's city council budget. So the categories that were changed, I believe in 2023 and were still used in 2024 were the under 18 category, the over 18 category, and then the community organization supporting the Davis community category, and that can be made up of any number of people of all varying ages. The nomination application suggests that these efforts that you've come up with previously would support the nominations, promoting civil rights and civil engagement, promoting positive human relations in our multicultural and diverse community, and then improving the quality of life in Davis for residents and visitors through health promotion, human services, housing, education, employment, cultural awareness, and peaceful means of conflict resolution. That's not a full list. There could be a variety of other things that people are nominated for that you could consider. So as I mentioned, in recent years, you've established a subcommittee to review these nominations and then bring it back to the full commission for review. And then in here, you'll also see the proposed schedule that follows along what we've done previously. You'll look at the categories tonight. We would open the nomination period on February 5th or thereabouts and put out all of the press releases and all of the information. It will be open through March 17th when nominations would be due. There'll be a very short period for the subcommittee to review the nominations. I do believe it's typically maybe a 2-hour meeting if I'm remembering correctly. So it would have to be done on fairly short turnaround, but hopefully you would be able to schedule that meeting ahead of time knowing that it's coming. That will give us time to prepare all of your guys' recommendations for our March 27th commission meeting. And then it would go to City Council for ratification in April. And in May is when we do the awards presentation each year at a City Council meeting. So that's sort of some history and background. You'll see the draft nomination guidelines and the form in your packet. I can pull it up on the screen for people to look at. And you can decide if there are any alterations. I did not have anything in my notes from last year of suggestions that you had for this year. And previous years, we've done quite a bit of work over the past couple of years to really revise the categories and the process. So, certainly if you have anything tonight, we can make those happen. Just give me a moment.
And then, Carrie, while you're doing that, just to clarify, I think you were touching on this, but my understanding is that what we have before us in the presentation you made is what we've done for the last couple of years, since 2023, And that was initiated at that time after a rather extensive review by a committee at the time that looked at the history and suggested that we go forward with this approach, and that's the approach that we've got in front of us now. Obviously, we can change that in the future, but just for background, that's where we're starting from, right?
Yes, thank you. And I should note, I did not write draft on all of these, but I just updated these as, as we would move forward with them, with this year and the date and all of those things, but certainly we can, as you said, change anything that needs changing.
Okay, well, with that opening and introduction, let me then ask for public comment on this issue. If there's anyone who would like to speak on the Tonghai Win Award nomination process, etc.
I thought the process was very smooth and easy last year. You do have to make that meeting happen at the right time, but we knew what that time was going to be, so could schedule it in advance. The hard part is there's excellent applicants and you can't choose all of them, but it was a nice thing to be part of, and I don't see any places, having done it last year, where I would recommend changes to the process.
Okay, thank you, Lady. Is there public comment then on this before we have further discussion among the commissioners? Anyone wanting to come forward to speak on that this item? Okay, seeing none, let me turn it back to the dais. I think there was a hand here.
Yeah.
Here.
So, Kurt, can you share how many nominees did we get for any of those categories over the past couple of years, just to get a ballpark?
Give me a moment. I just need to look at it.
I
Well,
think
Carrie
maybe
is
we had
here.
11 last year is the number that's standing out to me, right, Connor? Yeah,
11 per.
11 total,
11 total.
11 total, yeah,
We were able to get at least a few for each category.
yes. Is there one category that only had one, Connor, or did they all have at least two?
I think under 18 might have only had one. It seems like under 18 might have had two. So also just kind of related background, related to what Kevin was saying. So prior to updating the process, there were actually more categories. There were at least 5 and possibly more than that, and they were more specific. So part of the update was actually purposely to make fewer broader categories, precisely because there were some questions and concerns around getting enough nominees for each of the several very specific categories.
Okay, thank you, Connor and Lainey. Question, Ellie.
Yeah, I have a process question about getting access to the applications. So when nominations close on March 17th, will Carrie, you then collect all the applications and send them to the subcommittee to review, and then before the March 27th commission meeting, do the applications go to the whole commission, or does the commission only get the information that the subcommittee provides?
You are reminding me that we had a note last year that when we go back to the full commission, that it wouldn't necessarily be the full application, but the full commission would see all of the nominations and a sort of synopsis of the nomination form.
Quick question, clarifying question on that. So the whole commission would see information on all of the nominations. At what point? Would it be the week before, or from when they,
It would be as part of your packet that you received prior to the meeting.
So about a week before?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Felix.
Is there how do folks in the community find out about the award? Is there a press release that goes out prior to that?
Yeah, we'll do a press release similar to what we did for NLK. It's a pretty extensive list that everything goes out to, and then we'll also post on various social media platforms as well. And if you guys think of any other ways to do it, I'd gladly take those suggestions. So thank you. I did find the list from last year. I was trying to sort it. It's being a little bit, let's see. So in the over 18 category, there were 5 nominations. The community group one looks like there were, it's a little bit confusing because there are multiple nominations for the same person. That's why the list is longer, but various members of the community nominated the same person, which is why it's looking a little bit longer. For instance, for one of the community groups, we had 3 nominations for the same group. So, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So like for the community group, we had 10, but of those 10, some of them were duplicative. And then the over 18 category had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, again, some duplicates. And then under 18, I think Connor's memory is correct, that there was 1.
Ellie?
I have another question for the folks who were on the subcommittee. Last year, did you all like rank your choices to present to the commission, or did you come to a consensus on your top choice for each of the 3 awards and then present that to the commission?
I can speak to that. I wasn't on the committee. In fact, I think I was the only member of the commission who wasn't on that committee last year. But my recollection, and others will correct me if I'm wrong, was that the commission was presented with the committee's recommendations, which we discussed and considered, and then voted. Okay. Other questions, comments, suggestions? Are we good with this time frame? Let me just note, because I think one thing it does is really maximize the amount of time that the nomination period is open, but it does kind of crunch the commission in a fairly short period of time, which is fine. As Carrie is indicating, it can be a fairly short but intensive period of time, but it does allow for the longest period of consideration, or the longest nomination period, and then of course consideration by the city council, etc. But I just wanted to flag that's something that we can discuss if there's any desire to make any revisions to that. I think it makes kind of sense, although the committee members obviously have to kind of step up. And you will be drafted shortly, so don't. Go ahead, Ellie.
I have one thought, or kind of a question, which is just based on this timeline, there's really no room to be flexible with the deadline, because that subcommittee has to be able to meet and review it in time. So I don't know if there's maybe a benefit to moving the deadline up a week and then being a little bit more flexible of like March 17th is still the hard deadline, but you're kind of telling people, oh, it's the 12th or whatever. Maybe.
I do think we have to publicize what we want the deadline to actually be. Should the commission feel like there wasn't enough nominations, or they'd like to extend the deadline, at your March 27th meeting, you could move to reopen it for another couple of weeks. We've had to do that before. It then involves a special meeting, and then because we still have to get time for council to ratify it. But that could be something that if you're feeling like your nominations are falling a little bit short, or you could use a little bit more time, we could take another look and see. There might be a little bit of wiggle room on the back end in April. I might have to look and see when the council meetings are and that sort of thing. But that's something that you could think about.
Carrie, you're reminding me that we have in fact sometimes been up against the deadline and had a little bit of concern that there weren't enough applications or even any, because naturally people tend, I think, to procrastinate a little bit as long as the deadline's in the future. So it is nice to have a little bit of flexibility to beat the bushes a little bit and make sure that we've gotten the word out, that nominations are still encouraged and invited if we need to. I'm sorry, Connor, you had a question, I think.
Yeah, so on the various timelines, so first off, the February 5th date, I'm assuming this because the council needs to like approve our minutes from this meeting at the February 4th meeting. Otherwise, I would like maybe suggest or wonder if that could be slightly earlier. But I was also wondering, it says the subcommittee meets March 18th to 20th, but then the commission meeting is March 27th. So couldn't the subcommittee in principle meet sometime between March 18th and March 26th, like a bit beyond the March 20th?
I can respond to both of those things. So actually, no, we don't put this timeline before council because they've already tasked you with this. The February 5th date is simply enough time for me to make any changes that you have, get out the press release, work with Jenny to get a quote from the mayor, prepare the graphic and all of that stuff. So that's essentially gives me a week to work on those things. And then the reason that I suggested the subcommittee meet between the 18th and the 20th is because that will give enough time to put some information back into the packet so that the packet is prepared and ready to go for everyone to see.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, other questions, comments, thoughts, proposals? Are folks good with what we have here? Okay, I'm seeing nodding of heads. Connie, you have another?
I did have I had two technical questions
Yeah,
on the,
please.
okay. So first off, I noticed it says him, herself under the selection process. So I was wondering if that could be changed to themself, which I also noticed there is part of the one of our later items today. There is a similar change being proposed in the civil rights ordinance. So I figured that it could happen here as well. And then it talks about the like human relations commissioners not being able to nominate family members and partners and whatnot. And I wonder if we could add in city council members as well, since they also have an official role with selecting.
I have to say those seem like prudent suggestions to me. Do others have thoughts?
Sorry for schooling people. I am looking for, Connor, I'm assuming it's on the selection process, you said?
Yeah, item 2 towards the bottom. There it is. Down a little bit.
Yeah.
Next. Yeah.
So to clarify, you'd like it to say any commissioner or council member who has a conflict?
Right, and then the pronoun reference
Yes.
shortly after.
Thank you. Good changes.
Also with the city council aspect, under the nomination process number 1, like the last line says human relations commissioners cannot nominate, so just human relations commissioners and Davis City Council members.
Okay, thanks, Carrie, got that? Okay, thank you, Connor. Any other suggestions, and much appreciated for the careful, good eyes. All right, seeing none, it would be appropriate then to have a motion second to approve these materials and that time frame. And so Carrie can start her process of making the announcement and inviting nominations. Oh, go ahead.
I'm motioning.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dina, yes, motion by Dina. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Felix. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor then of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the input. And Carrie, thank you for all the work that you've done on this. And I know we'll be doing in the future, actually, too. Okay, moving right along then, I'm going to go back to the agenda. Remember where we are, which is item 6C. And this is a set of items having to do with updates from, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Kevin, were you going to create a subcommittee?
Oh, yes. Blah. Thank you. Yes, let's then move on to that.
Didn't say it in there.
It didn't say it, and I had a note to myself, but I overlooked it. Yes, we do need to set up a subcommittee, and I was hoping that Edgar would be willing to lend his knowledge and expertise to the committee again. Edgar's not here tonight, but he indicated his, to me and to Carrie his willingness to do that. So thank you to Edgar, because he's been a great member in the past and has that historical knowledge and community understanding, I think. And then perhaps if one of the new members would like Felix, Ellie, Amir, we can have up to 3, consistent with the Brown Act. So we've got, okay. I'm hearing you say something, Ellie, but I can't quite tell what it is.
I was just making sure that you know.
Oh, yes,
Felix's
okay.
hand as well.
Okay, so I see interest from Amir, from Felix, and from Ellie. Thank you all. We can have 3, as I said, but not 4. And so it's just a matter then of deciding which of our 3, in addition to Edgar, would want to make up that committee.
Well, Edgar, of course, I mean, being the returning member, so I think that's important to have Edgar remain. Yeah, I was reading through and wanted to just express my interest in wanting to be in the subcommittee. I know I had talked to Kevin previously about wanting to be on the subcommittee as well. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Felix. So we have to, Ellie, did you have a?
Should we all say something? Are we like running for election here?
Not like the too many people interested.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, is there anyone who has a different commitment, another subcommittee of their own currently? I'm only throwing my hat in the ring, so to speak, because I just finished a subcommittee, and so I think that now I have some available time to put towards a different item.
Great. Thank you for your energy and your commitment, Felix. Ellie, please.
Yeah, I'm honestly really excited just to learn more about the good work that people are doing in the community and get a chance to be part of recognizing that. I am finishing up one subcommittee that we're talking about with the Civil Rights Ordinance today. Hopefully that subcommittee is done now. And I do have one other ongoing one that I don't think will be in conflict. The scheduling actually works out great because it's during my finals week. So, but before my students take the final, it's like magical timing. But yeah, I'm actually really excited about the under 18 one. I have a little bit of experience with K-12 education and something that I'm passionate about. So I think especially getting involved in that part of the award is exciting.
Well, thank you, Ellie. Yeah, then Amir, did you want to also?
Well, kind of similar considerations, yeah. I also I really want to see what's going on and learn what's going on in the community, and I think that I can bring just my own perspective, so I'm really looking forward to being on that subcommittee.
Okay. Carrie, can I just double check? Ellie is a alternate member. Is it possible, since she's not a voting member, that she might serve on the committee
Well, she is a voting member tonight, and she is when somebody's not there. So I actually did confirm with the city clerk that as an alternate, they do count for the purpose of a subcommittee as a voting person, because they are at times a voting member. But I appreciate your creativity.
And 4 is a quorum, even though we have 8.
You have 7 with an alternate, so 4.
It seems like the alternate is counting against us both ways,
A
right?
little bit. So I could suggest literally drawing names. I will write them on a piece of paper. You could do that. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking about this as you're talking, so I don't know if there's any merit to it, and or there might be some downsides, but if there were people interested, as Ellie mentioned, in, the under 18 category, could you have smaller subcommittees made up to look at, assigned to various categories, which could get complicated, and maybe there's, benefit to looking at all of the nominations all at once, but I'm just trying to throw out some different ideas for you guys to consider. We've never had this problem before. It's very exciting.
Kevin, how strongly did Edgar feel? I mean, I know having somebody who's done it before on the subcommittee is very nice, but this procedure is pretty well structured, and do we think Edgar felt very strongly about it, or was just offering to be helpful?
I have to say, maybe channeling Carrie here a little bit, I did not anticipate that there would be more than 3 people who would be willing to. So I don't know that I actually put it to him that, in so many words. So like if you had to arm wrestle for it, yeah, so I wish I knew the answer to that question.
So would next meeting be still soon enough to appoint a subcommittee when Edgar is ostensibly here, or when we could confirm with Edgar how passionate he feels about this?
Yeah, actually, that would work. That would work. I know that Edgar's always also very varied in Cesar Chavez planning and
That's what I was thinking.
the elementary school gala that he is the chair for, separate from HRC. So, but certainly you could decide, I hadn't thought about that you could decide at the February meeting.
I suspect that we could either decide on the subcommittee of people who are here and recognize that Edgar's very busy and he was probably offering out of the goodness of his heart, or we could wait until next meeting, and I don't have a strong opinion either way, but I think those are the best solutions we have in front of us right now.
Yeah, I like that idea, because we could actually sort of get that input from Edgar in the meantime, without assuming anything about how he feels about that. And it still allows the rest of the process to go forward, as I understand it, right, Carrie? Okay.
Do we need a motion on that, or are we?
A motion not to do something
Yes.
until later.
Motion that we do nothing.
I just want to say that I will have a conflict with the scheduled meeting next month, the date that we are. So I just want to say that, I would love to hear from Edgar as well. So hopefully, whatever he decides at that time, then you guys can make a decision. I will not be here.
Okay, thanks for flagging that, Felix. But I don't think it counts against your consideration. We will not forget you. Out of sight, but still in mind.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you for that creative suggestion. It had not come to me, but I'm so glad you thought of it, because we really should have that input and have an opportunity to figure this out. But thank you all for your willingness to step forward. We're going to be creating further committees in the future, and I'd love to see that kind of interest and enthusiasm.
We're going to be the process.
I know. Okay, then let's now move on to item 6C. This is committee updates, and what I think we'll do, and hopefully I'll remember at each bullet point to invite public comment at that appropriate stage. First item actually is Edgar's Campus Council on Community and Diversity. So in Edgar's absence, we don't have a report there. But the next item is although maybe I can invite public comment on if anyone wants to address the issue of the Campus Council on Community and Diversity. seeing nothing coming forward, I will then move on to the City Holiday Observances Committee. This is Connor, Amir, Laney, and Kate Snow. Thank you, Kate. And just ask if there is any report. Obviously, we've passed the winter holiday. My understanding was that it was very successful. And I know that there are continuing conversations around that were considered previously, but let me just stop at this point and ask if there is public comment before we hear from the committee. Any public comment on the city holiday observances item? Okay, seeing none, does the committee have a report or any information to share since our last meeting, which I think preceded the...
I think Amir would love to tell you about it myself.
Would Amir love to tell us about it? Okay.
Under the bus.
So I don't think that we met since last time, but I think that all of us went to the event, most of us, I think I didn't see everybody. And the event I thought personally was, I was actually kind of shocked that I've been in Davis for 16 years. That was the first time that I went there. I thought it was a phenomenal event, super fun. Like half of the city was there, lots of families, kids, very family friendly. It was very fun. I thought it was really well organized. It was obviously something that the community really likes. And so that's just my personal take. Personally, and that's just my personal experience, I would not try to change it in order to cater for everybody, because I think that it celebrates something specific that people care about, right? They want to celebrate Christmas, right? So I wouldn't try to make it, personally, I think that trying to make it into something that it's not is not going to be a good idea. And I thought that the way that it is made me, in spite of the fact that, Christmas is not part of my cultural background, I felt welcome. I didn't have any problem being there, seeing Santa and, the Christmas tree and whatever, right? But I just came there as part of the community, and it was awesome. So my personal advice would be, I think that it's pretty good as is. The other thing that I have to report, I guess, is that we all reviewed an excellent survey that will go out to the community, asking about the event, trying to see what people actually think, which is a great idea. I thought that the survey was very well thoughtfully crafted. We all gave some feedback, but overall it was a really good survey, and we'll see what people reply.
Can I just jump in a little bit?
Yeah.
Just so there's some background on the survey, actually did not come out of any sort of direction from the commission. It came out of a staff survey. Jenny Tan was working on it, sort of under her Hate Free Together hat, but wanted some feedback. I also thought it was a very thorough survey, so she'll be rolling that out through Hate Free Together, but decided that this was a good opportunity to just get some more eyes on it. So that is a little bit of background on the survey that will be forthcoming.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you, Amir, for your service and for your comments. Other thoughts or comments reporting out from the committee?
I think we just need to decide if we're continuing to be a subcommittee, and I don't know if we would have access to results of that or be able to continue to be in dialogue around what people in Davis are looking for so that we could continue to advise for next year. I know we're hoping to expand next year because we'll have the new G Street Plaza available, or if we want to go ahead and close the subcommittee and then just reopen one maybe in the new school year, whatever, fiscal, whatever our year is, that starts in summertime.
Yes, subcommittees are supposed to have an end date, a specific goal and an end date. So I think it would be up to you guys to decide if you've completed your tasks for this specific portion that you were interested in, and would you want to reconfigure it with some newly defined tasks, or are you still working on, what your original intent was for this subcommittee? So I guess I'd suggest if you feel like that you've sort of completed this first phase, you could close out the subcommittee for now and reopen it. Or if there's things that, again, but if not, and you're actively working on something right now, then you can certainly continue to do so.
Carrie, can I just ask on that point? There's been mention of this survey, and I think Rainey has kind of, appropriately noted that it would be useful for the committee potentially to have access to that information. Do you have a sense of what the timeline is for when that would be produced? Because I'm thinking that if it's forthcoming, then like disbanding the committee and then reviving it in order to review the survey results might not be that productive.
I actually don't know, but I could be happy to bring information back at our next meeting. So if you want to keep your committee for now, and then I can report back, or I can also just report back directly to the subcommittee when I just need to check in. And see.
I don't want to keep the committee bound to something if they don't want to be, but I was just wondering if that might be.
So one of the things that we've discussed, I think, in this committee, which I think we could keep on doing, is, one of the thoughts was initially to try and see if we can make this holiday celebration by the city kind of more, again, cater to the greater community by not emphasizing Christmas and potentially doing it more of a winter celebration. And the other thought was that maybe we can just, instead of making it into something that it's not, just acknowledge some of the other holidays, obviously not to the magnitude, this is a big event, right? We're not looking into, such a big event, but we were kind of thinking and discussing amongst ourselves whether we can identify some other events that the city could recognize in a rather, simple, not that, cumbersome way, but still kind of recognize along the year. It doesn't have to be in the winter. It has to be whenever it is appropriate. But I think that that's something that I would like to keep on exploring personally.
So Amir, let me just check with you, because it sounds like that might be a reformation or a reconception of the sort of purpose of the original committee, which was focused on the winter holiday. You're thinking, if I understood correctly now, maybe there would be a committee that would be created, or that this committee would be charged with sort of the more general question of city holiday observances, or?
So Kevin, how about for expedience sake, can I argue that the subcommittee will meet one more time, since we haven't met since the winter holiday, to just like process and wrap up? And then, if that's okay with everybody, and then we'll sort of look at our original charge we gave ourselves, be really clear. We should have come today with that, and we didn't. So give us another month to decide where we're at, because clearly we don't know, if that's okay.
Yeah, that seems like a really sensible solution.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Lady saved the day again.
We have checked in. We are done now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lainey. And Amir, I think, Felix, you were also on that committee, right? Or was it Connor? Connor, yes, thank you. You were not on the next committee, okay. The next committee is the Civil Rights Ordinance process. And I know that you weren't on that committee, Connor, despite the fact that your name is unfortunately listed in parentheses after that.
Was Ellie on that committee? My apologies.
Exactly. Thank you for noting that, Connor. And I did know that because I was on that committee. And I think it is on me now to just maybe introduce this issue. The committee has submitted a memo regarding its review of the city's longstanding civil rights ordinance, which is part of the written packet for tonight's meeting, and I hope folks have had the chance to review. It is a little bit lengthy, but intended to be self-explanatory. Of course, the committee is ready to answer any questions that folks might have. The memo sets forth some suggested revisions to the ordinance for for your consideration and with whatever revisions you'd like for the city council's consideration in the future, if that is the will of the commission. This is the culmination of a process that began about 2 years ago and was previously presented to the commission in 2023. But here we are now with a product to put before you, hopefully for action. And I'll leave it there by way of introduction and ask for public comment on the civil rights ordinance in the materials and the proposed changes. Is there any comment on the civil rights ordinance process? See no one coming forward, Carrie, no written comment? Okay. Let me then bring it back to the dais and ask if there are questions, concerns, comments, thoughts, reflections, ideas.
I have more of a question around the process.
Sure.
So this is a written letter basically being presented to the city council. Is that correct? And then they will review it. What's the sort of like process? If we all say, looks good, let's move forward. What's the next round of steps to get that approved?
I'm going to let our expert on city processes, Carrie, address your question. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll do my best to give you an answer. Because this falls under our city clerk's office, we do have to work very closely with our city clerk. So what I will probably do is take your recommendations directly to her. And these will go to council. I mean, they always will go to council with your recommendations. But I'll also go through the clerk's office. They're consistently working on updates to the ordinance. So I would also get some direction from her as to the best way to present it to council for adoption.
Okay, I have one question I'm not sure I can ask, but if there was anything in here that you would suspect is going to be a red flag for the city council or for the city clerk, meaning it's not the same as what's in the state regulations, is there anything like that? Or is it generally what you presented in the last meeting as things that essentially get us to be on par with what the state is asking of us?
Right. Yeah, so the intention, hopefully satisfied, fulfilled, is that the proposal would be to equalize the city ordinance with state legal protections. In most cases, many cases at least, those state protections also have federal corollaries. But especially given the kind of uncertainty now regarding what might be happening at the federal level, some of which has already been addressed in public comment this evening, our specific tie in the ordinance is to state law. And sort of more specifically in answer to your question, we took like the minimalist approach with the desire to change the fewest number of words that would accomplish the goal of making the city's ordinance harmonious with the state civil rights laws, just because anything more than that might be controversial. The intention, and I guess will be evaluated on this in the future maybe, was to do the least controversial thing. So other cities have similar ordinances and have protections for other categories that are not reflected in state law and are not reflected in the city's ordinance. But we have not proposed to add anything to the city's ordinance that is not already in state law. So it's just kind of a leveling up of, and you know, really the purpose was to avoid the misimpression that, you know, the city doesn't intend to follow state law or doesn't share in the same values. So that's the modest goal here. It unfortunately has taken us a little bit of time to get here, but you know, thankfully we were able to get a draft of this ordinance to the city clerk's office in 2023 and have provided for that opportunity and haven't received any negative feedback. So I'm hoping that that means that we are well positioned and it will be well received. But I guess we won't know until it's sent somewhere. Anyway, by the way, I hope that was responsive to you.
No, that was perfect, thank you.
And again, the memo kind of goes into a little bit more detail about some of the specifics. There's an introductory section and then all of the text of the proposed ordinance along with footnotes that explain the proposed changes. I just want to thank Edgar Wong Chen and Ellie for their help in drafting this and thinking through it very critically with sharp eyes and big hearts and a lot of energy too. Ellie, I'm sorry. Looking at Ellie's stuff. Lainey, excuse me.
I have two questions, and the first is this 10.01.020, where you cross out all of the list of the protected classes and just say any protected classes under state or federal law.
Right.
I see how that would then mean if things change at the state and federal law level, then the meaning of this would change, and that would normally seem very, like a very smooth way to do this, but now I'm concerned about some of the protected classes that might change at a federal level. So I now feel less comfortable with taking out a specific concrete list of things, being that we're going to talk about being Sanctuary City, and my gay students from my school are very concerned about especially trans rights, and that the federal government is very intentionally about to try to roll back a bunch of protections. It does say state or federal, so even if federal law changes, I guess we could say, well, it's still protected by state law. But anyway, I wonder if it isn't missing something. And you've done a lot of work on this. I'm not going to try to propose any changes, but I just, in the moment we're sitting in right now, I look at this and I think, man, I might feel better if it really did list all the groups we know we want to protect here in Davis, rather than just saying the groups that the state and federal government says are protected classes.
Yeah, so in answer to your question, we did consider this issue, and as you know, that's specifically why it says or rather than and. But I would just offer that if there is any discomfort at all about that, we simply strike reference to federal law, because we're bound to follow state law. And if there is any, anchor here, well, if there's any anchor here, it obviously should be state law. I think the org allows us to say that if it's in state law, it doesn't matter if it's in federal law. But I would be very comfortable also deleting any references if that would make people, uneasy.
Yeah, I definitely had some similar concerns and questions. I also do wonder what could potentially happen. Obviously, not at the moment, but in the future, you never know if issues arise in the state where they start rolling back protections. But I do think that this makes sense, and obviously it could be updated again if something like that were to occur. What do other jurisdictions do, though? Do other jurisdictions are there other jurisdictions that have language that just directly says state or federal laws? Or do other jurisdictions like list things out specifically, or do they do kind of a combination?
Yeah, good question, Connor, thank you. I don't know that we did a comprehensive review of every city ordinance, so I don't know that I can answer the question intelligently about what other cities do. I think both models are possible. We could recite all of the categories that are in state law and then, obligate ourselves to make sure that we're updating it all the time. The design of this was, since we know we have to follow state law, and although we could go beyond it, let's relieve ourselves of the obligation of and avoid the problem that we would be dissonant with, with state policy. But both approaches are equally valid. It's just a matter of how much you want to take on. And, unfortunately, the city's ordinance got a little bit out of date over time, and I think it just gotten overlooked. So the intention was let's not overlook it in the future.
Do you feel good about the way it is?
I do feel that it's solid. By way of background, for those who don't know, I spent my career as a lawyer in this field, so this is stuff I know, or if I don't, I can't get fired for not knowing it anymore. But yeah, I feel like this is sort of a modest proposal to kind of lift us up and, kind of get us consonant with state law and then hopefully avoid this problem in the future. Although, as Connor rightfully notes, if, the state were to go in a bad, direction from the city's point of view, we would certainly have the right and I would say the duty to, make sure that our policy reflects our values. Ellie.
So I had the exact same question that you had when our subcommittee met. This was pre-inauguration, and I was like, I don't know, do we want to be doing this? But I think if state law, if the state government decides that they want to significantly backtrack on civil rights protection, there's more of an immediate impotence for the Davis City Council to do something and to step in and to say, okay, we're drawing our line in the sand here are our protected classes. I think that the urgency of that moment would cause an action as opposed to what has happened right now where there is no urgency and so it has just slipped through the cracks and Davis has actually fallen behind who we're protecting compared to state law. So I think in terms of kind of just like a process politics question, I'd rather go with state law until there's some kind of inflection point, and then Davis needs to step up. Yeah.
Thanks, Ellie. Other questions, comments?
I just want to really appreciate the replacement of citizen president, and it makes it feel more like town, family, our people, our residents. The thing we share is that we live here in Davis, and I appreciate that. Nothing against folks who live in Woodland, but that our city is subject to that. So I appreciate that. I had to wonder about whether it made sense to put in a line like whichever is most inclusive, but I think that's a whole different rabbit hole to think about, and I appreciate the way you framed that, Ellie. So thank you for doing the work, and that was great to meet.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're having this conversation at a time when so many people fear that their rights and protections are at risk. But it's maybe timely in a way, too, that we make clear where Davis stands on these issues. there is no further discussion. Let me just make sure if there's any public comment. Not seeing any public, oh, I'm sorry, please. Sawyer, I think it is, right? Sawyer, please come forward.
Kevin, I just want to clarify, you're reopening public comment? Because you'd already called for public comment on this one?
Yeah.
You're going to reopen it? Okay.
I guess I am. Alan always says we can't have too much public comment. So this is the Alan Hirsch addition, supplemental public comment period. We'll have a plaque for it. Please, Sawyer, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just want to say, you guys already covered a lot, and it's really great. And as a student, as a high school student in Davis, I think it's really important that we educate the public, especially students, on what our rights are, because I find a lot of my peers really don't know, and I personally make an effort to change that with my role in school clubs, but it would be amazing to see more like active effort to change that at a city level too. And this sort of thing is a great step in that direction. But like you all were saying, especially with recent developments at a federal level, just making sure people know what their protections are at state and local levels is even more important. And what really comes to mind for me is protections regarding gender identity in schools, so the right to use the bathroom that aligns with your gender identity or the changing room that aligns with your gender identity, which we've had troubles with even in Davis. I've spent the last couple of years with classmates who struggled to find changing spaces that accurately reflected their gender identity and that they felt comfortable in. And now that the federal government is moving even farther away from that, people are really scared. And so just having somebody at the city level who is taking these steps is amazing. And we would be so, so grateful to have you all sharing with students and making an effort to reach out to students to, I don't exactly know how to phrase it, but just to make sure that everybody is properly educated on what their rights are, regardless of what is happening at a federal level. And I'm just really grateful to see that there are people like you who are doing this kind of work. I've seen what a difference it can make. Lainey's been a mentor to me for a lot of years, and I'm getting a little bit emotional, actually. So this is really awesome to see. Thank you all.
Thank you. And I think at the risk of engaging in colloquy, I think I can speak for all of the commission members that we are grateful for you and the work that you're doing. And just one item I'll mention, which is that gender identity is reflected in state law and would now be reflected in city policy, just to clarify that. Okay. Thank you very much. We have another public comment? Scott.
Very brief procedural observation. When you're thinking about state law as a reference point, I don't know if you're allowed to do this in the ordinance, but to specify a date at which the state law was recognized, rather than allow it to move forward within the ordinance, so that you could say, this is the state law be recognized in the ordinance. I don't know if that's possible, but it would satisfy a lot of concerns about coercion that will be applied by the federal government to see where they could change that law. Thank you.
take the privilege of the chair again, because my microphone button is illuminated. And just note that the downside of doing that is to freeze the ordinance in time, when in fact we have to follow state law, no matter what it is, even if it changes in the future. So I think, as Ellie suggested, the more direct approach would be to depart specifically where we mean to depart, that is to say to add, but we can't subtract from state law because it binds us. Okay, seeing no further public comment, we are at the point of considering a motion on the proposal. If there is such a motion, kind of dying to make it myself, but I'm not going to.
I'll motion.
Okay, motion from Dima, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Amir. All right, then all those in favor of the proposed ordinance for submission to the powers that be in the city, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries, and thank you all very much. Yes, this has been a long process, and we'll see how long it continues to be. Okay, let's go on to the next item, item number 6. MLK, yes, thank you, Connor. And we have a committee, Alvarez Pickett Cole. I'm kind of tempted to congratulate and thank you guys again, but I want to open it up and let you kind of reflect and see what other thoughts. I don't know how you could have done it any better, but thank you. And
I think I'll go first, but everybody should say something. I thought Felix's idea to bring in the SES speaker performers was excellent, and they would love to come back next year. And so that's a really cool new addition. And I don't know, I think we got a pretty good formula now for like how to make it work. It was a pleasure to work with you guys. The only question that I have at this point is, Carrie, would you be willing to send an email asking for anybody to give you, I would like to ask people for any likes and wonders, feedback about it, but I don't think we want to take any longer than we need to here. So if you send an email and people would just respond directly to you with any specific feedback that they had.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. And I think I'll just note while I have the microphone that you guys did do an amazing job coming up with a very creative lineup, and we did receive a lot of sort of anecdotal comments as people were walking out saying that it was the best they'd ever seen, etc. So I wanted to share that with you.
And don't exclude yourself from that, Carrie.
Lion's share of the work. Anybody else want to say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had a great time. It was both the event itself and then what came after, the march, was very, very, very enjoyable, and I would do it again.
And in fact, you might.
I think that's actually recorded. There you go.
I said would, not will. No, but I would definitely do it again.
I just echo everything that was said, so in the interest of time, it was awesome, fantastic, I had a great time.
So do we dissolve that subcommittee now and then just save any feedback that you get for next year's subcommittee? I think.
Yeah, I think so. This would just be the natural end of the subcommittee. You don't need to make any formal motion or anything, but I'll collect everybody's thoughts and put them in next year's notes so that we can have those to reference.
Can I add one thing?
Ellie, please.
Amazing event, 2 pretty small things that I think would be helpful just to put in the record to consider for next year. One, and I'm completely blanking on her name, but someone said they were missing the land acknowledgement, that they wish there had been a land acknowledgement at the beginning of the event. which I think I agree on, though, there's some debate over the effectiveness of land acknowledgements. Which I feel like was an item at some point on this list. The other thing, which is my comment, is that I would really like to see captions. I think there's a whole wide range of people in the audience. Obviously, live captioning is great if you have the funds, but I think even doing automated captions are pretty good nowadays. And I think you were already using a PowerPoint or Google Slides on the projector. You can add automated captions to that really easily, and I think that it would just make the event more inclusive.
Great suggestion, thank you, Lily. Okay. I'm tempted to suggest that we start creating an award for best committee of the commission, but I'm gonna hold that for later. Okay, if there's no further discussion, let me just open it up for public comment before we close on this. Anyone else would like to address the commission on the MLK celebration? Okay, seeing none, let's move on then to the Cesar Chavez celebration. Connor, Dima, and Edgar. Any update from that committee? We've got an event to be determined at a date sometime in March or April, but you still have plenty of time.
You want to go, or do you want me to go and add in? Okay, I'll go. So we've met a couple times. I think most of our meetings and most of the work is going to really happen in the next couple months. It's going to pick up. But there is already a lot of great ideas on programming. Super excited about some of the people that we want to bring in. We've talked about speakers, but also sort of activities that could be at the event. One thing that had come up was that there is work being done at Central Park, but we did confirm just today that the space that is usually done is going to be open and available. We're looking at April 19th at the moment. I'm not sure yet, Carrie, if we're solid on that with letting Randy know, but
I did reach out to Randy. I haven't heard back from her yet, but as far as I know, it should be okay. I'll let you know if I hear differently.
so as of now, we're thinking April 19th, and definitely have some good ideas. And we're going to bring in some people who also we think can really bring in some really good discussions around labor and unions. And so as experts, we're hoping that they can help us find even more potential speakers and programming. So it's on its way. Next couple of months are going to be where we really get a lot of work done.
Great. Thank you, Dima. Connor, anything to add? Or?
No, that was basically a good summary. I was just going to mention the date, and that was part of the summary. So yes.
Right. We've got good committee members. All right. Any other question, comment, thoughts on that issue? Anyone would like to address the commission? Mr. Hirsch.
Again, to reiterate my suggestion, C8.8, being positive that we have made progress, we can make progress to a motivational event. And I'll just note in passing, it's the last night of Passover, but it shouldn't be any issue for an active event.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, let's move on then to the next committee, researching ways to report hate incidents. And Connor,
Yes.
turning over to you.
Okay, so this committee had, a basic summary of the idea behind this committee. So thinking through ways to report hate incidents, both hate crimes and incidents that are not crimes. So ways of doing that in the city, and we have met twice so far, and they were very good discussions. So this committee is me plus Felix and Kevin. So there was a lot of brainstorming around possible ideas, as well as discussion about existing resources, because part of the issue and question here is like resources that already exist but that not everyone knows about because they're in various places and aren't all like together. So some of the existing resources that we discussed are the State Civil Rights Department has a reporting form. Hate Free Together lists various resources, though there are some questions with what resources there are police and what are not police. Obviously, various police departments have reporting forms and numbers and those types of things. And then another thing that was mentioned is more informal anecdotal reporting mechanisms like Facebook and Reddit and those types of things. Okay, so there was discussion on some of the challenges around reporting. So there's some biases in terms of who's willing to report things. This is especially true of police options, which is one of the reasons for this subcommittee, is because of the hesitation that some people have, and disproportionately people from more marginalized and oppressed communities with going to police. But even with non-police options, it did come up that there's still going to be people who are more and less comfortable bringing these sort of reports in any way. So that is one general challenge. And then there's also just questions around what these reports, like, what happens to these reports and these stories? Like, what are they used for? Are they compiled into, like, quarterly, like, public, like big reports? Are they used to, like, take actions? Like, those types of questions. And then there's questions around privacy and confidentiality. Okay, so I'm just going through my my various notes from the two different meetings. But yeah, so that was a particular question with California versus Hate, which is the state civil rights reporting form. Like, what exactly do they do with those? It seems like sometimes they make like posts about active concrete like dangers, and maybe they release broad reports once in a while, but it wasn't totally clear. And then another resource that is available is the City of Davis webpage. If you search hate crimes, it does come up with some resources, but they're mainly police resources. So basically what we ended up deciding is that the best way forward as an initial step would probably be to list different resources on the HRC webpage, and that might coincide with a broader project around kind of revamping the HRC webpage as a whole, but listing different resources there, and that could include police options, but also include other options as well. So including the state civil rights form, there's a form on the UC Davis website that seems to be independent of police as well, that could also be listed. And then the HRC itself is an important reporting resource that not everyone is aware of. So just the general HRC email address and the fact that we have public meetings with public comment periods. So listing those on the HRC website as a possible first step to compiling all of these resources into one place, and also making it clear which ones are police affiliated and which ones are not police affiliated, and if possible, making it clear what's done with the different reports as well. Like so people kind of have an expectation, if you report it in this way, what if anything is going to actively happen with that report. And then possibly in the future, we could go further and possibly create additional resources like a form or things like that, but at least initially compiling those resources and making it clear which ones are doing which types of things around policing, around confidentiality, and around what happens to the reports.
Great, thank you, Connor. That was a great explanation and a great summary. Felix, did you want to add anything?
No, that was a great summary of everything that we've discussed. I think one of the biggest highlights I think that came out of that was definitely our own awareness that maybe people are not knowledgeable that the HRC exists or the existence of this public forum, adding those resources to the HRC webpage, as well as a more clear invitation or message to allow people, or to let people know that we are here for that reason as well, for that purpose. It's nice that one would hope that during our public forum for hate incidents, that because we don't often have individuals coming and reporting anything, that those things are not happening. But we feared that it was just because people don't have any means of reporting them or places to be reported. So hence the updates that Connor so eloquently put forward.
Okay, thank you, Felix. Yeah, I don't have anything to add also. Although it makes me wonder whether we might want to think about the web page suggestion that you made, Connor, maybe calendaring that for discussion in a future meeting, maybe even as early as February.
I have a question, just based on that, and maybe I missed it. It didn't sound like much, maybe it was, but looking at sort of DJUSD and sort of teens and that kind of group, that age group, was there any sort of specific looking at that? I know that would be maybe through working with you, Kate, on how teens can bring these kinds of things forward, and I know there are some complications around trying to gather that information in a more public way. So, yeah.
Perfect segue, thank you, Dana. Partly I think of it as a report from the district, but as you're talking, the work we've been doing with the superintendent student advisory on combating dehumanizing language, behavior, and symbols has really gelled in some ways around both the process of educating to prevent these kinds of things from happening, but also the reporting mechanisms and the reporting feedback loop, so that what students have expressed in that of that advisory committee has been not only do they want places to report what's happened to them, but to know what then has happened in response to those. And although we were stymied by the need for privacy, right? We can't say what discipline kind of things have happened. I think where we're beginning to land is that one could still name the quantity of complaints, maybe even the quality of the particular harms, and then the sort of types of responses, right? The totals of within a quarter or within a month. These were the kinds of things, and these were the kinds of responses, so that one could, students could see that at least there have been 10 responses to 10 reports, or 12 reports and 2 determinations that they were false reports or something, they were vengeance, messaging, and 10 of them were followed up on. So I think there's a real alignment between what we're guessing the community wants and what students are explicitly saying they want. So, and students certainly had plenty of suggestions so far about ways to do reporting, including QR codes all over campuses, making available inside Canvas, which is their electronic learning system that every single student has access to. So that's developing, but I think we're aligned with what students are expecting. And then maybe there is on the HRC page education about, and if you're a student in Davis County Unified, here's how you report. And if you're a student you know, on the DDUSD side, if you want your community members, or your family, or your friends to know outside of school, here's some tools outside. Or, you know, all that combined together. So thank you for asking. And that committee meets the next time, and we had sort of a subcommittee meeting last week, and we have the whole committee meeting the 27th, on Monday the 27th. Thanks, Kate.
Good discussion. Thank you, Dina and Kate. Others on this item? Ellie?
Thank you so much for your work, the subcommittee. I really strongly support adding resources to our website. When I first looked to even just apply to join this committee or this commission, I felt like there wasn't a ton of information available on it. And I'm somebody who knows about, like, you can report things and stuff like that. And as somebody who, like, has a leg up, I was still confused. I think it's great that Hate Free Together exists, that they have these resources, but I'll tell you, when I'm teaching students, like, where they should go to look for information, I'm not gonna send them to an organization like Hate Free Together that requires extra steps to kind of vet them. I'm gonna send them to the city website. And I do think that we have a public obligation to make this information more transparent and more available. Because I do think that the lack of people reporting does not indicate that things are not happening. So I would definitely support putting this on the agenda for the future to see what we would have to do to kind of turn these ideas into concrete actions.
So I want to add to that. I also just want to second, very, super grateful for the work that has been done on this and for the update we received. I think this is all really very important. You brought up the website. I believe that has been on the long range for a while. I'm just wondering if we, next meeting, want to discuss. I certainly would be interested in having an effort to make our website and the page much more information rich and provide people the information that they need that's related to all the things that we're working on. So just putting it out there that I think it would be good to move that up.
Thank you. I have noted it. Okay, any other comment? I think we have public comment on this item. Please come forward.
I'm quite concerned. What will this fix? I don't understand how this will make things better. So when someone says something, is it a microaggression? Is it rudeness? Is it ignorance? Or is it just a different definition of the world? I've been corrected by my son a couple times because of different definition of different things. And we're collecting all this as government data, unvetted. We're building a file on people. That's a public file, which will be reachable. Define, where do we put someone, correct that? The FBI can't do an interview on people, they're interrogating people. Put it in the newspaper, put it out there. So I'm concerned that we're collecting this thing, turn in your neighbors. People get restraining orders on their neighbors because the neighbors start talking about it, and they just become public information. In terms of, we're going to use it for quantity, right? We're going to measure the hate. I've watched this happen. The ADL has increased the number of reporting mechanisms, increased the ease of getting movement. So now they're basically telling us that anti-Semitism is up 3,000% because they made it easier to report. No one reports it, basically they've changed the method, so there's no historical continuity. I'm sure anti-Semitism is up, but basically the methods used changed the numbers. So we're going to get a lot more hate stuff in Davis. Davis with a tremendous increase in hate. That's what's going to happen. You can just see it because we make it easier to report. We'll get more reports. We encourage people to report. We'll get more reports. And we'll say, oh, we have a real problem. Look at the tremendous increase. That's what's going to happen. So I just, and the person when someone can say anything about someone else and put it in the police report, and it's part of the public record, right? Where does someone get his reputation back? How does he defend himself with that? This is a difficult, challenging, I think a dangerous path to go down. And I'm not sure what the benefit will be by measuring and quantifying and making it easier. They're gonna expect the police to investigate this stuff? What is really, I don't understand the benefit here. I mean, it feels pretty good, I can tell I'm somebody, but you want Big Brother to come in and start interviewing someone who's reported multiple times, your neighbor hates you, someone hates you, there's a political vendetta, this is what's gonna happen. I'm afraid of this thing. So I think we need to look at the civil liberties and the chilling. We want to make Davis a safe place where people can talk and be honest, and people are going to mistake and make things wrong. I've said things I regret, as anyone else, I'm sure everyone else has. I think this is really quite fraught. So I think you should think about the civil liberties and the chilling effect on the community where we're building files on people, unvetted files on things. People don't want their FBI files released and unvetted. We're building the same thing. Your neighbor can report that to you. Thank you very much. And this is hard work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, any other public comment on this item? If not, I will thank the committee for their report and noted the interest in the front page issue. So, I'm sorry, Connor?
I was gonna. Yeah, so first I do want to mention that I think Eight for Together does list some of the DJUSD resources, but obviously the city could potentially list some of those as well. And again, making it clear what's police and not police, because that's unclear on the Eight for Together website. But I do think it is important to really think about what is the purpose of reports. And it sounds like the school district has some mechanisms in place where they actually do use like these types of incidents in a positive community building way. So I would be interested in learning more about that. But I definitely understand and agree with some of the concerns that were brought up by Alan around like what happens with reports and will this just lead to more surveillance and more division. So that is a very like important consideration. Obviously, the things that we'd be listing are things that already exist anyway, and in principle could already be used this way anyway, and to some degree already have. But yeah, like certainly thinking through what we want like these types of dynamics and these types of relationships to be, and thinking through how we can use these types of like reports and like stories to create a more positive community. That is going to be a very like hard thing to figure out, but it is an important aspect.
Thank you, Connor. Okay, appreciate the robust discussion of this and the good thinking. Let us then move on. We have two more committee reports.
We are at 8:25. Can I make a motion around time?
You most certainly may.
So I understand there is interest in looking at the long-range calendar. However, the proposal I want to make right now is that we do get through the last two subcommittee check-ins and then through also 6D and E, and that however long that takes, we extend our meeting to cover those. Maybe you could propose an alternative way that we could weigh in on which future agenda items we think would need prioritizing. Like Carrie could send us an email and we could respond if you feel the need to collect information about that right now. But my proposal is that we extend our meeting to get through 6E before we adjourn.
Okay. I like all of those suggestions. I think Carrie might want us to like have some time attached to it, if I understand correctly, but I really like the way you framed it, lady. So if we could get away with that.
That works for me.
Oh, it works for you, okay.
How long do you expect 6D? 6D looks like it might be a hefty one, or
I'm hoping that what we might do is to constitute a committee to look into these issues further rather than having a lengthy discussion at this hour. So I don't think we're alone. But that won't be in my hands entirely. They don't give me a gavel. Okay, so with that, I think we need actually a second and a vote on that motion. Mylene,
I'll second.
second by Dima. All those in favor of the extension signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Thank you, Laney. Okay, let's then go to the next two committee reports. Amir and Dima, do either of you want to go first? Or I think in the order here, inquiry into discrimination against Arabs, Palestinians, Muslims, and their supporters and allies. Dima,
I can give an update. This can be a quick one. So
Okay.
we'll get out here faster because of that. So I don't have a long update on the subcommittee. We weren't able to meet during the break, so that's part of the reason we're after the break. But we're going to be meeting very soon, and so we expect to have more report next month. But one thing I did want to bring up is that a number of community members have brought up that Arab American Heritage Month is in April. So we're going to be discussing that to come up with some thoughts and suggestions regarding how to recognize and show support for the Arab American community during this month. So in our next meeting, we'll bring up those what we kind of decide on in that meeting. And Carrie, we are going to reach out just to understand and get a sense of what the city has done in the past to recognize the month. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so more next time. Do you have anything to add, either Ellie or Kevin? Okay, thanks.
okay, final item then, well, if I ask for public comment before I move on. Please, come forward. Good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. My name is Scott Stewart, and I wanted just to address that it's a little confusing to understand hate and or the discrimination against, and I'll explain. I personally don't feel physically threatened when I'm approached by someone who doesn't agree with me and I'm protesting for human rights in Palestine. But I do get called and have been called in Davis an ally of Hamas. We understand that Hamas is designated in this country as a terrorist organization. I am not a terrorist, but I am called that. It's a kind of a dangerous term. And I just want to bring up to the committee whether you want to figure out what that is in terms of a bar. Because if that were the bar, then I would want to report it. And I think I do want to report it. It does not feel good, and I don't want to address the person who addresses me that way. I don't want to have a dialogue. I do want to have a dialogue, but not that dialogue. And I just want to point out that there are positive things going on in Davis too, where this ownership, and I think this gets to, if you're going to measure this, or you're going to take in reporting, what are you going to do with it? Well, who owns this dialogue? And I would say that some of our houses of worship do. I'd say that some of our institutions in public education do. But I would also just recognize that, you know, I was able to attend last Sunday that Haverim had a outreach. They had a discussion about anti-Semitism, which I went to check in on. And, you know, heard some things that I needed to hear, but also heard other people talking about what it's like to be a Jewish person who's observant, and I'm also Jewish, but not observant, and what it's like to see their fellow Jewish people and or people who are Israeli and from either native or have adopted deal with what's happening in their country and in their surrounding country. The idea that Palestine is being annihilated, the people who are there, pays very heavy toll domestically. It is a domestic problem for us. So I just want to bring up that there is real issues with the belligerence of people approaching people who are protesting, say, BDS, or, asking for food systems to change, where your money goes. So thanks for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
The accusation that someone is a terrorist has begun to have legal entailments. What I passed out, the Project Esther has legal entailments. That people say that and say that they can use a Title VI to cut off funding for our schools and our university. So that accusation is very serious when someone makes that accusation, and we should take it very seriously. And I think, and when does someone get their good name back after someone makes an accusation?
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion on the dais on this item? If not, we will move to the final item. This is a committee on anti-Semitism in the city of Davis. Amir.
It's me, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were the, forgive me. I thought that.
No, I'd
maybe-
say
okay.
he's the head of the subcommittee, but, yeah, so we have met 3 times, spanning from really debating definitions of anti-Semitism to meeting with members of the Jewish community to try to have like a presentation and understand more about the exact sort of texture and flavor about what people have experienced. And then coming around to sort of the second part of our charge is where we want to put energy right now, which is exactly what Dima was kind of saying, which is awesome. I love the parallel. That we want to focus on proposing strategies to combat it, and we're very interested in May being Jewish American Heritage Month. And so our best and greatest idea, I'm a history teacher, and I feel like there's so much history about Jewish Americans that a lot of people don't know, like that the language at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty was written by a Jewish American woman, and the speaker who spoke right before Martin Luther King at the I Had a Dream speech was an Israeli Jewish person who was there advocating very eloquently for civil rights for Black people. And so there's like all these moments through American history that a lot of people don't know about, where we've had really substantial contributions, for example, from Jewish Americans. And so we started envisioning the possibility of some kind of event that would be put on by members of the Jewish community, but they could propose what the event is, bring it to the HRC, and hopefully it would be something that we could endorse and support, and it would be around like education and celebration of Jewish American contributions and just the Jewish American experience. And so it sounds like you're thinking about doing something in April, and hopefully we would be able to do something in May. And our best idea was that it would be, the Jewish community would be the people that would put on the event, and the HRC could be asked to endorse it. So if they want to do it in a city space, or if we can do anything logistically to support that, then that would be a really positive opportunity for people to engage, become educated, learn about culture, learn about history, be together in a positive, celebratory way. Did I miss anything?
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lainey.
Okay. All right, so yeah, that's basically our check-in, and we are gonna, I think, start meeting every other week so that we can, because May seems far, but it's not, it's gonna come up really fast. And hopefully next month we'll be able to maybe see a presentation from the Jewish community asking for our endorsement, and that's kind of what we're hoping for and thinking about right now.
Yep, and we'll be reaching out to you, Carrie, probably sooner rather than later to make sure that we understand the logistics associated with running such an event, if we need to book a place ahead of time, or any kind of logistical issues that we need to make sure that we're planning enough time ahead of time.
I think the most important thing to remember is that council would need to approve this, so we want to make sure that we've got plenty of time to get whatever formal recommendation you make in front of council for their approval.
Council has to approve us, the HRC endorsing something?
Not endorsing it, but if we're going to be at all putting it on, or, sponsoring that.
I think we would, like how Patty put on the event and we endorsed it, we're like envisioning like that. It would be really facilitated by the Jewish community, but our endorsement would allow us to help advertise some and to,
Absolutely,
do our
and
usual types of support for.
since our last meeting, we've got a little bit of new direction, you might recall, of council having to approve things that the commission is working on. We're still working through that. So I'll get back to you on, just to make sure that we've got the specifics. I just don't want to lose something in the timeline
Thank you.
and all of a sudden be out of time. So that
Okay,
would
thank
be
you.
most important.
Please do, keep us in the loop. Okay, I think that's us.
Okay. Let me invite public comment on this item. Good evening.
Hi there, my name is Jacob. As a Jewish American and resident of Davis, I'm really excited to see this commission promoting a Jewish American month that would be really meaningful to my family, and we love participating in this. So I really would like to see the city release this commission, endorse a community effort for Jewish American History Month. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Ellen, please.
Hi. Couple things I want to point out. The definition of anti-Semitism is very controversial. I hope that's understood, and that this committee from the synagogue set up does not represent the committee. That was very clear at the last citizens board meeting. It represents one segment of the community. There's a lot of controversy here. So I think you need to be very cautious on that. And also, I want to share with the committee, this is from Robert Putnam's book. He wrote The Bowling Alone. This is called American Grace. It talks about religion. And it points out that in the year 2008, Jews were the most appreciated religious group in the United States. We talk about the anti-Semitism, the glass is half empty. The glass is quite full. We are in the golden age one of the golden ages of Jewish history right now in America. We're struggling to maintain that, but we are that. And basically, it started turning around in the year 2016. 2017, incidents seemed to go up when a person got elected, and the tone in the country, I would suggest that's what's going on here. And also, I also suggest that that's when ADL changed its methods of recording and encouraging hate incident crimes. So you can encourage your incidents by basically changing your reporting methods. But let me share with this is Putnam's amazing book that talks about how American Judaism has basically reduced anti-Semitism dramatically until very recently. To the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further commentary on the dais on this issue? If not, we will close out item C and move to the final two items, and then take any suggestion that on item 7, folks email Carrie, if Carrie, you would be willing to solicit that for future items on number 7. So the next item is the sanctuary city ordinance, or generally the issue of as I see it anyway, the concerns of the immigrant rights community. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I think this is an issue that is going to concern us not just today, but in the weeks and months ahead. So I welcome the opening of the topic tonight, but I think we would be well served to consider establishing a committee to have some more detailed conversation about this, to delve into the issue in a little bit more detail, and hopefully consider the implications for our community going forward and bring back some proposals for our consideration. To me, this is multifaceted. It involves the threats that, you know, immigration officials and Trump administration have made, not only with respect to places that have been off limits for raids in the past, schools, places of worship, etc. I think, you know, there are a lot of concerns about how maybe officials other than immigration officials might be empowered or deputized to begin engaging in immigration enforcement work. So, I mean, there's a lot we can say about it. It seems to be a very fluid and dynamic problem, but one that obviously is causing a great deal of concern. So I would hope that maybe we might tonight be able to think about creating such a committee, and hopefully that committee might work in conjunction with TJUSD, UC Davis, I would think, given the AB 540 and other students on campus. Immigrant communities themselves, immigrant rights advocates, obviously law enforcement agencies, and, you know, local businesses and others, I think, that might be impacted. I guess I should just maybe note, in the interest of full disclosure, that I am a descendant of what are now apparently called invaders, according to the one of the latest executive orders. Like some people now, my recent ancestors crossed the border without authorization. Of course, we didn't require authorization at that time until we started trying to exclude Asians. But I just wanted to make that disclosure on the record as we get into this conversation. So obviously the time is short, but I want to open it up and see if there might be interest in pursuing a committee or other thoughts folks might want to put forward tonight.
I just wanted to bring up a note that when we had talked about this last time, I think we were wondering about if Davis was technically still a sanctuary city, and I think there was a statement that went out from the city to clarify that status is still the case. So what we would be doing then, I think, is not only looking at what already is in the Davis Sanctuary City sort of language, but adding to it, adapting it, ensuring that it either is flexible or is broad enough to make sure that as these things start to come, that there's safety for people. So I just wanted to note that there is this, that we would be working with something that exists and just making it better, and that would be what we would probably be submitting to the city council as a subcommittee. I just wanted to make sure that's kind of what we're thinking.
Yeah, I'll let others jump in, but my sort of just initial response, the city has a policy that predates state law, which is sometimes referred to as the California Values Act, which was enacted in 2017 in response to Trump's first presidency. That law prohibits state and local law enforcement officials from cooperating with immigration, customs officials, ICE officials, for certain purposes, along with certain other exceptions. And we hear more about the general policy than we do about the exceptions, but they're in state law. And Davis policy basically reflects state law. Okay. I think there are a lot of questions that come from that. First of all, is it just the police department that is affected by that, or do we have to be concerned about other city officials? There have been threats that the Trump administration has made about potential action against other city officials. So is that part of the discussion? I don't know. There's been talk about expanding immigration enforcement beyond ICE. to the FBI and others. So are those folks included? And then I think there are a bunch of issues that might not even be strictly limited to the sanctuary policy, but the fear and the actions that people will take out of fear. Sorry, I'm going on, that this is something that is kind of dear to my heart, I guess, and that I've worked on a lot in the past. But what the tone is, I mean, somebody once told me early in my career that sometimes the headlines are more important than the guidelines, and that stuck with me. But to me, it means that, the atmosphere might actually be more important than the policies. And there, I think, we have to be concerned about what kind of threats our immigrant community and people who might be misidentified or assumed to be members of the immigrant community are, you see people from the Sikh tradition who are, believed to be Muslims, right, and were attacked for that. Anyway, just all of the stuff that goes with this, I think, is part of the community tensions that are within the kind of ambit of human relations that we ought to be thinking about. So I wouldn't limit it personally, and I'll shut up now, to just the question of the sanctuary policy.
I'll just respond and say, I think that's very good to hear, and I would say that the language seems to allow for that, so it's not like, it was more the conversation we had earlier, I just wanted to clarify that this broadens what we would be doing, so that the committee can feel that they can do so. So I think this language is very good for that reason, and what you just said, it aligns with it.
Thank you.
I think this is getting at maybe the same thing that you're saying, but I'm interested in a lot of things around this. If we did create a subcommittee, and I don't need to be on it, but I'd be very happy to be on it. I know, for example, my church is a sanctuary church, and so I think instigating some conversation between as many Davis entities as we have that are already established as sanctuary entities, so we can have a larger group of people to brainstorm. I think there are very specific and concrete things. I know the schools, for example, many years ago stopped tracking citizenship status of students, stopped asking for any papers that would document that, so that when they're asked if somebody's a citizen or not, they literally do not know the answer. I'm wondering, for example, if the city does that for city employees, and if not, whether they're, I know when it's somebody's employment, you're supposed to have all the legal documents or whatever, but it feels like there are specific and concrete ways the city can enact practices that support being a sanctuary city, more than having a declaration, but where are the teeth? And what do we do with our, that there are going to be hot spots where if ICE comes here, they're going to go right to the migrant center. So now we've got we're putting, as usual, the migrants are all kind of in one location where they, for example, could be easily targeted. We need a plan for that, So it seems like this could really be expansive in what could be done as long as we consider it within our purview and as long as the people on the committee are willing to do it. Some of that, it seems to me like it could be big enough that maybe the whole commission does need to talk about some of these things at some point. But anyway, I love the idea of a subcommittee. I'd be happy to be on it. Apparently subcommittees are popular these days, so I don't know if I'm going to wrestle for it, but I think those are all my thoughts.
Thanks, Amy. And yes, I totally agree. This does need to have discussion among the full commission. I was just hoping there might be some kind of working group that would kind of delve into the details more than we're able to do on our once-a-month Thursday meetings. Let me just keep looking for comments. Connor,
Yeah, so just to kind of add to and expand on the list of ideas that people have mentioned, I agree with and support all of the possibilities that people have come up with already, and sort of related to what Lainey was saying. one additional thing that could potentially happen is the city could help facilitate different institutions, like religious institutions and schools and businesses, coming up with a plan for what they would do if like ICE were to show up, because there are specific like laws around like if the owner of private property basically says you can't come into these private areas, then they need a judicial warrant in order to do so. So yeah, like helping facilitate those discussions between like those entities on how to have these types of plans in place before any possible action might occur. And then also, there's been a lot of Negro watches that have been occurring around the state and presumably around the country, which is basically people doing a police watch, but of ICE. So when suspected ICE officials come around, people go out and just kind of monitor where they are and what they're doing and those types of things. So possibly having like those types of trainings in Davis. And then I think both of these ideas would also just kind of build a broader community and build that like solidarity in those relationships between different people who are interested in pursuing these types of protections.
Can I add a little bit to that, Kevin,
Yes,
just in
please.
the sense that I assume some of the people here are aware of the organizing in the community of, I don't know it has a name, but I mean, around how to be responsive to the current times, that is around specific issues of both immigration and safety. It's, the Davis Phoenix Coalition is really spearheading, I think that, if that's the right word, is sort of lead organizing community around these very responses. So there may be some, just calibrating what we as a committee do and what is happening in the community, I think is key. But we wouldn't, we're not the only ones to think about it.
Yeah, no, I think we hopefully are going to be in consultation with folks who are wanting to do this work. Looks Jim.
No, absolutely, yeah. Definitely, I think it is important to create a subcommittee to tackle this, both similar to what was done with the Civil Rights Ordinance in writing a letter to improve or to update our, resolution of as a sanctuary city, but also to formulate or research plans that maybe other sanctuary cities have in place or other entities have in place for when there is an eventual mass deportation event. We are within the border zone, even as far inland as Davis, and so something to consider. I know there were events during the last administration where there were mass deportations at elementary schools where children were left without parents to return home to, and so there definitely needs to be a suggestion to the city in terms of maybe creation of a plan in the event that something like that were to happen at one of our schools, and then also coordination with the Yolo County as well in the event that were to happen. So absolutely, this is something that's also very dear to me as a former invader himself, somebody who benefited from AB 540 and who has family members who benefited from DACA. DACA was not around before I was able to obtain legal status in this country, but I would have also benefited and utilized it. And there are very many people that I know currently who are members of that, who are struggling and really in fear of what their status will be tomorrow.
Thank you, Felix. Okay, are there others who want to be heard on this, or should we go to folks who might want to serve on this committee? I'm going to keep calling it a committee.
I was going to say,
Kevin,
yeah.
and just public comment.
Oh, yes, thank you. I want to invite public comment on this item as well. Okay, seeing no public comment, Carrie, thank you for the reminder. Back to commission folks, where are we at? Are we ready to move for the creation of the committee? I think we've followed a practice in the last couple times, and maybe a good consistent one, to create the committee, if we're going to do that first, and then populate the committee in a second motion. So if there is a motion then to create the committee as described in the agenda, or with any potential expansions, I tend to think it would be review of the sanctuary, city ordinance and policies, and actions to support or address concerns regarding immigration status. So, words to that effect.
I propose that committee. I motion that we create that committee that Kevin just said.
I second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Hopefully somebody wrote it down. And let me just ask them for all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we get to the hard part of deciding who wants to be on this committee. And I think Lenny has expressed interest, and Connor, I'm sorry, excuse me, Felix has expressed interest. Our ex officio folks are welcome to be part of it, and I hope will be part of it. They do not count towards our quorum. Even if they're not on the committee, I think we should be in robust dialogue with them. Is there, okay, thank you, Kate. Is there that third person who would like to serve?
Jennifer's not here, so we have Connor.
I could. Sure.
Is there, okay. All right. Anybody else who wants to be throw their hat in the ring? Or your arms are too tired? Okay, if not, we've got Lainey, Felix, and Connor.
And Kate.
I'm sorry, and Kate, thank you. I'm gonna not call out UCD, but I do hope that that conversation will be happening. You don't have to sit on the committees. Thanks, Megan. I know, you're like, hey, I'm just sitting in for Michael. Anyway, I know that there just needs to be a good conversation because there's a lot of expertise there and a lot of issues there too. So, okay, with that composition of the committee, motion by Lady, second by Dima. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Abstentions?
Easy.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Forgive me for my liberties. Okay, we are now on the final item, and that is the yearly decision regarding the chair and vice chair of the commission. I'll start off by saying I am willing to continue to facilitate if that is the wish of the group. I am also happy to switch chairs with anybody who might want to, because those chairs look like they could be even more fun.
I move that Kevin Baker maintains the chair position. Right. All in favor? All right.
This is all good, just
Oh,
one
yeah.
second. All right.
Thanks, Kevin. Good job.
Who was that second?
I think
No, no, wait a second.
exactly time.
Just give me 1 moment.
It's a vote of confidence.
I'm going to get you back in it.
Sorry. Some weird formatting things. Okay, I I'm good now. Thank you. You
Okay.
continue.
All set, did we didn't take a vote yet, I guess. So I think we need to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? I'll abstain. And the motion passes. Okay, we now then have the additional position of vice chair that we need to fill. And let me just open that conversation. Connor, you are our current vice chair. What is your wish?
I would rather it rotate.
Okay.
And I will note, maybe I'll put my mic on. I will note that there are 2 other people besides Kevin who have been on the commission as long as I have. Or almost as long.
Interesting, Connor, interesting.
And one of them is in the room.
Well, I did promise to kind of return the favor, maybe. So it would be my honor to nominate Lainey for this position. She has been a veteran of the commission and just a really valuable member. I would really love the chance to work with you if you were so willing.
Thank you, Kevin. Seeing as Edgar is not here to throw under the bus, who's been on longer than I am, I'd be happy to do it. I'd be happy to work with
Okay,
you.
I will tell you that I
Will of the
consulted,
commission.
I consulted with Edgar as well, and he seconded the nomination. I don't know if that can be done in abstention. but
That's
he
why
did.
he's not here tonight, he's on my deck there. No, it's okay, I'd be happy to work with you.
Okay. I think I just made a motion, so if there's a second.
I will second.
Ellie seconds, thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Motion is. Okay, motion carries despite Lainey's abstention. And I thank you for your willingness to take on that role. I'm really looking forward to it.
Appreciate your vote of confidence, everybody.
Well deserved. Okay, with that, we are at item 7, and I think we've dispensed with that by Carrie inviting folks to email. I will invite the public comment if there is any on our long-range agenda. I don't think we have public comment on
Oh, that
the
is,
election.
that is true. You did not have public comment on the election, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'd be happy to take public comment on that and/or on the future agenda items at this time. Seeing none? I'm sorry? Okay. With that, I believe a motion to adjourn is in order.
And you don't need a motion to adjourn,
We don't,
just want
we
to
just
do it by
completed,
consensus.
we do it by consensus. And a sigh of relief. Thank you everyone for all of your time and hard work, not just tonight, but in all the committees, and for volunteering for news